Welcome to Being Patient's live talk. This is Nicholas, and today I'm really happy to have Marc Archambault here, who's living with early stage Alzheimer's, to speak to us about his experience as the first patient in the world to receive treatment of the newly approved FDA Alzheimer's drug Aduhelm in clinical practice. And we'll also be speaking about, his journey of living with Alzheimer's. So Marc, thanks so much for being with us today.
Happy to be here.
So Marc, I just want to start off by asking you, what does it mean for you and for your family to be able to receive this new drug that was recently approved by the FDA, Aduhelm?
It was a pretty amazing thing that happened. For me, very lucky, very happy. I was ready to take it. I've been reading about it. I know what was going on. And I thought I'd be crazy not to take this. Never mind that I was the first person, but it made me feel great. It picked me up. And I hope that it helps me and other people too. And it's been good. My family was all for it. My friends also. And of course, once it June 2017, when that happened, my picture was everywhere, and a lot of friends were in touch, and emails and texts and cards, and all of them saying good luck. I hope it works great for you and a lot of other people. It was just great.
Right. Yeah, it received a lot of media attention, right? I think, you were all over the news, and that must have been a big day for you, right? And
yeah,
nice for your friends and family to see you.
Yeah, some people I didn't even know, but kind of, knew me around town or something. It was on all the news that night in Rhode Island and Boston, and it was amazing. So that part was kind of fun. And they say, "Wow, you're famous." I said, "I think it's the drug." That's the big thing,
Right.
So,
And got it. And yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about is also, when the FDA approved the drug, it is a very controversial position, and there's a lot of discussions about it. And a lot of doctors also say, it's unclear whether this drug works and can actually slow the progression of the disease. As a patient who's now receiving treatment of Aduhelm, how do you make sense of all of this? Like, is it confusing, and how do you, navigate all these controversies then?
Well, I read about that maybe the day before I got the drug, and there were people right there in the room, and they were able to ask questions. And one reporter said from Boston, "Are you aware that 3 of those people had quit the job because they didn't think it should come out now?"
And I'm just gonna, to clarify for our audience, you're referring to the FDA advisors who resigned in protest against the FDA's decision, right?
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "What do you think?" And I knew about it, but hadn't thought about it. And I said, I wish that they were still there working to help all of us instead of leaving. I said, I also wondered if, maybe it wasn't a nice thing to say, but I wondered if anybody in their families have Alzheimer's. There's empathy involved to do all this. And I hope he comes back and keep helping us to do that. But it wasn't going to stop me from getting this drug. And I read about it, and I was ready to go. Yeah.
Right. And one thing you mentioned as we were talking before this interview is you're willing, there are risks with this drug, right? But that's something that you're willing to take on, right? Because
yes,
it gives you a little bit of hope that perhaps it'll work.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But they need people have it so that we can know how it's working, and I was happy to do it. You know, some people said I was a hero for doing that, and I said, wow, I don't think that's the case. Frankly, I'm helping for myself and a lot of other people. And I was with it, and I still am with it now, and um, I hope that it works.
Mm, got it. And how about, and your family was very excited that you're able to receive it as well.
Yeah,
What's their reaction been?
like everybody else, they said, how the heck were you the first person? And it's because I started doing studies at Butler Hospital in Rhode Island. Dr. Salloway is the guy to go to. And oh, I just lost that. Hang on a
No
second.
worry. You mentioned you're talking about how you became the first person to receive the drug, right? It's because
Yeah, I mean,
you've been involved in Alzheimer's
yeah,
studies before.
yeah. Everybody wanted to know why me. I said, well, you know, I'm a good talker and I'm handsome. I was just kidding. And but they were all happy, you know, and I told them that they knew me, and I think they trusted me, and that I would be a good person to talk to people about it, you know.
Right, right. And your point about hope, right? And um, that's something that was touched upon also in a recent interview that I did with uh, Dr. Nash, who is a clinical trial participant in Aduhelm, and he was talking about how in 2019, when Biogen halted prematurely the two aducanumab clinical trials because there was an analysis showed that the drug wasn't working, and they halted the study, and all the participants felt like they got kicked in the stomach, right? There's just,
Right.
you mentioned that we'll all
Yeah.
take some hope over no hope at all, right?
Right. That was a tough time, you know. Um, Butler was doing studies. The first one was, I think, in 2014. And then they went on with the second one in 17. By the way, Dr. Salloway said to me in the 14th, this might be a good one. There was a study then that might be good for you. Nope, my memory was too good. In 17, he said it again, and my memory was too good. So I guess if you want to say it's lucky,
Mm.
this year, I know when my memory's dropping. And he said, yep, you're ready for this now, you know, for now. So you want to do it? And I said, of course.
Mm.
And then at one point there, the people who made it decided it wasn't working like it was supposed to, and they dropped it, as I think people with Alzheimer's know. And I have friends in Rhode Island that was on that, and they were blown away because the people I knew said they were doing better. And then, of course, what, 6 or 8 months later, they did the whole thing over again, and that's when they started to do it again.
Mm.
And that was there was a tough month for people around here, or with anybody with Alzheimer's. So it's pretty nice that it was able to come back,
Mm.
hopefully work correctly, you know?
So at the time, actually, your memory was too good for you to be enrolled into Aduhelm study. Actually,
Right.
got it.
Isn't that amazing? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Dr. Salloway said that day when I got it, and he never told me what it was. Or if it did tell me in 14 and 17, I wouldn't have remembered the name because, you know, they were like this long at the time. And so, yeah, it was really good.
Right. And Mark, let's go back in time a little bit, and wanted to ask you about, what were, the very first symptoms of Alzheimer's that you started experiencing, and can you share with us a little bit about what that was like for you
Yeah,
personally?
it hit me on my head. I got a call from my secretary. I'm a realtor, and she called and said, "Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so are here. Are you going?" She knew something was wrong. She said, "Are you coming?" I said, no, it's tomorrow at a different time. She said, no, it's today. So I said, okay. I live close by, and I went there and we talked what we had to talk about, and I was blown away. She said, what do you think's happening? I said, I didn't say it then, but I thought this could be the beginning of something else, And in within a few months of that, I was having some trouble with the house, finding things. Nothing that, I need to have, but I couldn't find them. And so there you go, saying, well, that's continuing.
Mm.
There must be something, going on. And my father passed with it. He, I believe, we knew when he was 80 years old, and he passed at 87. And for me, it was 62.
When you had your first,
That's when I thought something was wrong.
yeah.
And then little things would happen, and then, maybe 8 months would go with nothing. But I got better then. I was working with my calendar much better. And a year later, my office decided to use Google for our computers. And that was a big help for me because I have a computer at home, at the office, I have an iPad, and I have my phone. So there were four places I can look to see what's my appointments for today. And I put them at the right time. And when they say when they want to come, after a couple of years, I'd say, text me, please. Because sometimes I didn't quite get it right. So everybody was willing to do what I asked, and it's been working fine.
Mm.
So the only reason I'm still working is because I made changes so that I could continue to work in a business that I like.
Mm.
Let me tell you a couple things quick here. I opened that office in 87, and I ran it for 30 years and hired it, sell houses, all that kind of stuff. But by the time of late 16, I was wondering, can I keep doing the two things? So I stopped being the manager, and now I was just an agent. And I thought, okay, this is going to be good. 6 months later, I thought, no, I can't do this alone. I need help. And I called the agent in my office that I really like, and his name is Paul Robinson. I said, would you want to work for me? And that's why I'm still working the last 3.5 years, because it was picking at me, and it's worked out great.
Right. So you found people at work to be able to support you and help you,
Yeah.
work around it, and that's
Yeah.
how you've been able to continue working.
Right. Yeah. And my business isn't like a doctor could fill somebody. I could get that kind of help, and it's been really good for me. And I knew that I should have my brain be working all the time to make it slow up a little bit,
Mm. Right. Because it's so important to keep your brain active, and I mean, being able to see like clients and coworkers,
Yeah.
that interaction, that's so important, right?
Yeah. And if you're in the right business for this, and you can get help from other people, do it. It's good for you. It's good to other people that would help. And I think that maybe it slows it down a little bit. I don't know.
Mm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how about, after your diagnosis, how did your colleagues and how did your colleagues at work react? And how did you tell them?
Well, I knew I had it before that I was told. Good friends, I just know. So some people who I hadn't said that to said, we're so sorry, all that kind of stuff. Some people said, it seemed like that was coming for you. I said, yes, that's right. I never cried about it. I just went along with my life the best that I could, And I think we all do that,
Mm. Right. Got it. And another thing that you got involved with was advocacy work, right? And speaking at conferences and
Yeah,
presentations. Can you tell us about what motivated you in the first place to get
well,
involved with that?
yeah, when I was listing a house after Paul, well, I guess before Paul was with me, I would tell people, I want you to know that I'm in the early stages of Alzheimer's. I just want you to know, nobody said no. I did the work that I was doing, and I had Paul to help me to make sure that everything was good. But I wanted to talk about it because it's kind of like Alzheimer's is still kind of like cancer in the 50s and 60s when they would say the big C. And we shouldn't be afraid of Alzheimer's. Yes, it's sad, but if it's a friend has it, we should be kind about that kind of thing. So I started talking, and the very first time I talked, I said, listen, if you know anybody that has this, please don't stop being friends. And I'm going to tell you what to say when they tell you that, if they are told. And so just say, I'm so sorry you're both going through this. Give a hug, put a hand on the shoulder, and please stay friendly with them. And taking, obviously, the person who has it needs help, but the caregiver, if it's the husband or wife doing this, they need a lot of help because that is one done job. And as I was doing more talks, I started to say how many people they have friends with Alzheimer's. And that group, 80% said yes. I said, what's the problem? And one guy said, we don't know what to say. So I've been saying that before. This is what you say. Just like I said. And a week and a half later, they had two couples and friends. And they called me and said, oh, Mark, thank you so much. We have our friends back. And I'm so happy that you said that to us. Boy, that makes me really happy. And it helps a lot of people. And I'd like to talk about it more, while I can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's hard for people's friends to, like stay in touch or to offer help? Like, what do you think holds them back?
Yeah, I think that when they first hear that their friends has it, I think they're thinking about the last stages. And I say in my talks, listen, there's thousands of people in Rhode Island in the early stages that are still working, doing good work, and you shouldn't be afraid. And when the time comes when they can't keep doing it, they're going to stop, So I think that that's why. And I think that helped for them to understand that there's still some decent life for these people until the time hits really hard.
Hmm. Like the fact that, Alzheimer's, there are many stages to it, right? Like,
Right.
and people are at different spectrums of the disease, right? So it's really different for everyone, right? So,
Yes. Yeah. And it's different for everybody. I got the problem with picking up words really earlier than in the normal stage. And, I had said, help me with the word if I can't get it up. And that's been going on for quite a few years now. And my friends, my friends in the office, especially my family, when I'm talking with them and I'm stuck, and I should have said it before, my daughter said, I think I know the word. You want me to say it? And I said, hell yes. And so everybody helps me with that if we're talking. And if it's not the right one, it's okay. But I'm gonna have to kind of like talk about what it is without saying the word.
right. So you're open about, how Alzheimer's affects you, and that way, like people around you can help you, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, 2.5 years ago, I lost spelling. Paul took it over. 6 months later, I lost what's the word? How you write sentences, grammar. So I write them, and then I send it to him. He cleans it, and I send it out. So, you know, he's been having to do more and more little pieces as the time went along, but he's happy to do it. He's got empathy. He's a good guy. And
And you're referring to your coworker?
yeah, it's Paul
Yeah.
Robinson. He's a great guy.
Mm,
Yeah.
right. So when you lost spelling in your grammar, um, your coworker helps you out with it, right?
Yeah.
Mm, got it.
And so see, people say to me, the tasks are short. And then if I have time to see them and stuff, yes, that's a reason. I want you to know the information. But if I had to do 4 sentences, it could be 30 minutes for me to do it right. You know, and Paul's not around, you know, so it is what it is.
Mm, got it. Got it. And how about for in terms of we spoke about reaching out to people living with Alzheimer's, but you also spoke about you know, for caregivers, right? Because it's often a long journey for caregivers and a hard
Yeah.
one too, right? So
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
your advice for their
Uh,
friends in terms of how they can help?
Yeah, so I don't think this has changed, but the statistics for caregivers taking care of their loved person alone, um, it's 67% likely that that person would pass before the patient. And then I say that in my call talks, and that's why you have to stay with your friends. And so for the caregiver, you might say, can we go to the market? Can we have lunch? And also, if you want, people are afraid to be with the person with it, but it depends how it is. Just maybe the wife doesn't want to leave the husband alone, but they can talk, they can have fun. Somebody can stay with him for an hour. You just gotta find out, you know, you need the help so bad for those things and give them their kind of normal life, especially for the caregiver.
Because was your mom the primary caregiver for your dad, and was it
Almost
really
all.
hard for her?
Yep, almost the whole time. This was in the 90s. We didn't even think about, 4 boys. We didn't think about getting anything. I think I said a couple of times, you need help? Nope, I'll take care of it. Um, she had a heart attack. She was in the hospital for 10 days. And my father passed just 3.5 months later. So as far as I'm concerned, she took care of them the whole time. It's a tough, tough thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important for friends to at least just reach out through a phone call and ask,
Yeah,
how they're doing.
and my mother and father had some friends that would come and knock on the door or call and say, we're gonna come, probably better than most, but not the number that they always had through the years. Also, they were getting older. My father was 80, my mother was in her mid-70s. And, some of their friends are gone now,
Mm,
you know?
got it. And Mark, I think my last question here, I know that especially for early onset Alzheimer's, but for any type of dementia, it's often very hard for people to come to terms with their diagnosis, knowing, what the future will look like, and what the future that they can expect. I was wondering if you have any insights about how you were able to come to terms with your diagnosis and whether you have any also advice for others.
You know, I think right from the beginning, I thought I was going to try to live my best life till the end when I can live right. I don't think people should be, so upset in the early stages, have a good lives. There might be some little things that didn't happen before, but he or she is still good, happy to talk. I think you gotta let it go the bad part until it gets close. And during that time, you're going to be talking to attorneys and people who work with the money and how do you do it. And um, you know, apparently when my father got older, they cut it up for her, for my mother, and for him, knowing that he had less time. I'm not sure about that correctly, but that's what happened with a really good attorney here in town. And so the money wasn't an issue right there, but of course, not everybody has that kind of money. And um, there's a lot of stuff you got to know about as it goes on. That part's scary. But don't do that in the early stages. Have a good life. Be with your friends. Um, and, and tell them you have it. Don't hide it. I think you got to say it.
Mm,
And some people will help you even more
mm, right.
when they
And
think
for
that,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you talking about it, like, I mean, even like doing interviews like these, it helps you.
For me to do this here and other places, it makes me really happy. It really makes me happy. And people will often around here will call. I've had 3 or 4 families that have one person with it. Could you come to one house? We'd just like to talk with you, hearing the talks. But, and I do that too. I'm happy to do it. And I think there should be more people who know what's going on because of themselves and maybe talking more about it. And you can talk about how it's tough, but that your life is still good, and let people know that you don't get the diagnosis. You can't drive your car anymore. It's coming, but yeah, that's how I handled it. And I think I have the right attorney to do the things that I have to do the right way. And it's just the way I am.
Right. By speaking about it, by letting other people understand that they're not alone out there, right? That,
Right.
there's
That's for
people
sure.
like you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us.
Hmm.
Yep.
Got it. All right. Well, Mark, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thanks for calling me so I could do this for you and for other people. And this makes me happy. And thank you.
My pleasure. All right.
Okay.
Speak to you soon. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.